Okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so are we good to go?
I think so. Okay, everyone's saying yes. So hopefully we're good.
Okay.
I think. Okay, sweet. Awesome. Technical
Okay, cool.
difficulties. Okay, we
Yeah,
are so excited. Oh my gosh, Trent, we are pumped to have you here. Thank you so much for taking your Thursday night to spend it with us. We're really super honored and really grateful. And I can't wait for some of my coaches who've never heard of you to get to hear you. So this is a big, big honor.
well, I appreciate you, Ashley. Thanks for sharing your platform. And thank you, everybody, for being on here. I know we're going through probably the craziest times in all of our lives. And for you guys to still show up for your life is truly incredible. And, you want me to just go ahead and go into my story a little bit?
Yeah, I was just say, can you just share a little bit about yourself, kind of like what led you to this place here, where you came from, and now you've obviously, become a top speaker, you have a podcast, founder of Rehab Time, just kind of let them in on what that journey has looked like for you.
All right, cool. Yeah. So just to be straight up with you, like it came from struggle. And as I was driving over to my office tonight, I thought about that. Like so many of us, I feel like adversity is a gift. And I know that seems crazy to say it, but adversity builds and births and builds and creates so many great things. I mean, if you look back over your life, it's the hardest times in your life that built your strongest strength. I mean, all you work out, I'm sure. So you understand, like, you have to go through pain to get your strength. You have to go through struggle to get your strength. And not to get too in depth in my story, lost my everything. My everything was football. And for some of us, our everything is, maybe it's finances, maybe it's your business. Some of us are going through it right now. Maybe it's a relationship. Well, I lost my everything. And the first thing that you think about when you lose your everything is that your life is over. And I was 25 years old and like, man, like, what do I do in my life? Because my whole entire life, sports was my identity. So without it, there was no Trent. Without it, there was no life. Two situations happened, the birth of my son. And for parents on here, not even just parents, but you all are leaders because you're here. And I want to tell you this. When people tell me, oh, I'm not a leader, you're a leader. Somebody somewhere at some time is watching what you do. You either are influencing people to settle in their life, you're influencing people to do nothing, or you're influencing people to have faith and achieve more. And so when I looked at my life, I realized that my son, I was going to influence him not to have faith. I was going to influence him to, we might talk about the BC mindset, blame and complain. I was going to teach him not to go for, not to progress his life. And so immediately I wanted to become a better man because of my son. The second situation happened in 2011 that really was my why, my reason. And people always ask, like, why have you been so consistent? Like, is it easy for you? Absolutely not. This journey has been hard. It's tough. I mean, when you're, the go-to person for a lot of people in the world, that's a heavy load to carry. And there's times where I thought about giving up. There's times when, things weren't going right. There's times when I was depressed, even at the highest peak of my career. I've noticed that with football. And I had to remember the reason why I started. And the reason why I started was the reason why I got really serious with Rehab Time was my best friend committed suicide. And it was a promise that I made to him, and it still gives me chills to this day. It's a promise that I made to him at his service as we were putting him in the grave and in the cemetery, put him in the ground. And I said, Aunt, you know what? I'm gonna live the rest of my life. I'm gonna dedicate my life to help people. And I know that might seem right now, you're looking at it from the outside and it's like, oh, that's easy for you, Trent. You're an extrovert. If you know me, I'm an introvert to the fullest. Even now, like, I'm super introverted. My parents would tell you that out of the three kids, the three boys, I would be the least one to be a speaker. So I had to walk into my biggest fear because it was a promise I made to him. People always ask, like, why do you talk about, removing things from your life? Why do you talk about know your worth? Because he lost his worth, because somebody left his life and he felt like life wasn't living. And so my promise to him that I was going to live the rest of my days helping people know their self-worth, helping people know that just because something is over doesn't mean your life is over. And that reason, that why is so real for me, it's like there's no other option but for me to go forward. So I challenge everybody in here, and some of us, listen, we can all have our reasons, right? And sometimes it is external. Like, I want to be this, I want to have more money, I want to have this, I want to have, more recognition. That's great. But I'll tell you, a blue check by your name doesn't erase your struggles, doesn't erase your internal battles. Millions of followers doesn't erase your internal battles. Financial freedom still doesn't mean you're free. Think about that, all right? Because a lot of people that are financially free, that are still dying inside. We see it every single day with celebrities, just people in general. I've been there. I've been at the highest peak of my life where it was my dream, where I had everything, and yet I was the lowest. And so I want to tell you in this moment, like, you can have these external reasons, but when you have an internal why, like something that doesn't move, doesn't waver because of what's going on the outside, and you stay loyal, no matter how many times you fall, you get back up, no matter how, no matter if your back's against the wall, you still stand tall because you're fighting for something greater, even greater than you, hopefully. You're fighting to leave something here that lives on beyond you. That's what legacy is all about. You're going to find a way. And if you can't find a way, you're going to create a way. And I had to do that. When I first started speaking, wasn't many speakers looking like me. I'll just be blunt, especially as African-American, it wasn't many in personal development. And it definitely wasn't many looking like this, coming on stage with a, with a hat backwards, with my tattoos out. And so many people told me to change. So many people. And I want to be clear, like, I'm not against change. We all need to change to better ourselves, but your change should be authentic to you. You shouldn't change to fit in when you were born to stand out. You shouldn't change to be like the next person when your uniqueness is your greatest gift. And so when people were telling me, hey, you're not professional enough, you need to talk like this and dress like this. And every time they told me I wasn't professional enough, I say, but I'm purposeful enough. And you might not get it now, but I'm gonna start a wave of speakers and kids that look like me to say, I can be more than an athlete. I can be more than an entertainer. I can be a speaker. I can go on stage. And I fought for that. And you see a lot of people now, not saying that I started it, but you see a lot of people now being themselves on stage. You see a lot of people now being transparent and being real, and we need that in this world. So my message to you is understand that your greatest gift is you. So don't sit here and try to be like other people. Be influenced, take what you need from them, but don't live your life to be another version of someone else, because I believe that's a slap to God in his face when he took time to create you. There's 7 billion people in this world, there's only one of you. So own that. And yeah, I'm sorry I went into all of that with my story, but if y'all listen to my podcast, you know how I get.
I'm like laughing over here. I'm like, okay, well, that was that question. That was that question. You tackled like all my questions right now. No, seriously. Oh, so powerful. Everyone's just like, mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. I feel like every time you talk, I could write it down like a quote and, stick it on a sticky note and use it. So I love that so much, because one of my first questions to you was going to be about your why, and how do you use that as a driver, like a driving force behind what you do every single day to stay focused and stay course. And I think you just answered that all right there. So I guess I'll move to
I can touch on that though.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I can touch on the why a little bit more.
Because that's a big, we're coaches, and so our why is a big, having a why. We kind of, in our world, we talk about having a why that's kind of more like, personal to us, and then having more like a mission of what is it that we want to do for others. On the days that we don't want to show up, what is it that's going to keep us, showing up for the people that we want to serve, the kind of platform that we have. So yeah, I'd love for you to speak to that.
Yeah, so when it comes to your reason, I'm not going to tell you like what it should be, because it's your life, but I always challenge people is like, hey, is it bigger than you? Because as human beings, a lot of times we'll quit on ourselves. But if we have, it's hard for us to quit on other people most of the time. So your why, your vision, your reason, whatever you want to call it, your dream, your purpose, it has to be bigger than you, and something to reignite it. Because just like anything in life, when you're doing something for so long, you get used to it, right? It just happens. I don't care. I mean, just think about like something that you really wanted, a new car, a new house, and you're there for 5 years or 3 months for some of us. And it's like, okay, cool. It's just a normal thing. It's the same thing when you reach your level of success. And that's why a lot of people fall off. The goal is not to become successful. The goal is to keep your success, to elevate your success, to take your life to levels that you didn't even know existed. And the only way you're going to do that is if you go revisit your why often. So what I do, and this might seem very weird and creepy, but wise is that I don't want to leave this earth. I don't want to leave this earth unfulfilled. There's a lot of people that are living empty that will die full. The great Les Brown says it, the richest place in the world is the cemetery, is the graveyard, right? I am so afraid. Like, if we talk about fears, I am so afraid to die with potential. I'm so afraid to die with my dreams. I'm so afraid to die with that idea inside of me that I let opinions, fear, failure keep inside of me. I don't want to go to the graveyard with incompletion. So something that I do, some of you might have seen the video with me and my son, Tristan. You heard the podcast, Die With Your Dreams, like I used to. But anytime I feel like I'm disconnected from my reason, or I forgot, or, I'm just like COVID-19, this situation, it kind of messed with my mind a little bit. A lot of things change. I go there to remind myself where I'm going to be at. And this is not to scare anybody, but I think this situation let us know that we're not in control of much. I think this showed so much that you're really not in control of much except your internal things. And so I want to make sure I go to the graveyard empty, because I live such a full life. Also, I go back to my parents' house in the guest room. That was my depression room. That's where I started rehab time. You can go on YouTube in 2009. You'll see me. It's terrible, by the way, but I thought it was dope when I started. But when looking back, that's what progression is all about. I was in that room. That was my room where literally I started rehab time. So every time I feel like the fire needs to be lighted, I go to my mom's house and sit in that room. Or some of you see me do it. I'll FaceTime somebody, or I'll do a call, or I'll do this to remind me of the reason why I'm doing it. So I would develop a practice at least weekly that reminds you of your why and your reason, and really cements that in your soul every single week to keep that fire alive.
Oh, I love that so much. I think that's that's a big topic that we all struggle with, or that you will find a lot of even newer coaches struggle with, of, getting into their business and feeling on fire. And then, that quote of like feeling on fire. And then all of a sudden it's like, I kind of lost that, they kind of get disconnected with that original reason why they want to do this. So I think that's so powerful of developing a practice of kind of bringing you back to that why and bringing you back to your reason and reminding you of that potential. I love that. Love, love, love. Okay, one of my other questions, sorry, I can't tell if you're delayed or not. One of my other questions was, what has been, I guess, like one of your biggest, failure might be the wrong word, but what's been one of your biggest failures or challenges to kind of getting to this place that you're in now? How have you had to kind of adapt and overcome, different obstacles and challenges? We face a lot of obstacles and objections and just roadblocks in our business, and that's kind of a big topic of what we talk about, of how do you kind of redirect and adapt and change and overcome those things, and don't let those be hindrances. How do you kind of overcome issues like that in your own business or your personal life?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. I endure the word failure often. I say failure like that because to me, failure only exists when you stop trying. It's really a learning lesson. It's really just an obstacle for you to get stronger, for you to figure out another way and a better way. But I always didn't think like that. Obviously, my biggest failure was football. When I lost that, I was like, okay, what do I do with my life? And I remember vividly the moment where I said this: either you can sink or you can swim. And you got to understand this about life. Life is not about always what happens to you. It's about how you respond to what happens to you. That's life. Life is a fight. And, sometimes it's not always, a brutal fight, but life is a fight, and you have to respond. You have to respond when things don't go your way, knowing that. And let me go ahead and go into this. And people ask, like, how do you respond that way? Like, how do you keep such a positive mindset? How are you so optimistic? Well, I understand this about perspective. And a lot of you heard me talk about this. Your perspective can either be your power or your prison. And so when I was going through failure and adversity at maybe 5, 10 years ago, a decade ago, my perspective was my prison. Literally, I was pointing the finger at everything. Like, I was blaming everybody. And the world, you have to understand this about life. The world owes you nothing. And some of us, we go through this life thinking everybody owes us stuff, thinking that everybody's going to help us. Everybody's going to save us. Yes, there are great people that love to help. But at the end of the day, your life is your responsibility. And so I was living in the BC mindset, as I call it, blame and complain. It's my parents' fault for not making me fast enough. It's the coach's fault. It's, people not bringing me on stage and people not checking me out, people not watching. It was everybody's fault. And even though some of those things may be true, how is that serving your life? Right? How is it serving your life? And for me, I had to realize that, like, if I continue to blame, if I continue to have a prison perspective, then I'm giving the situation or person the power to control my life. And so if you're listening to this right now, and if you're this person, I was this person, so I'm not trying to be insensitive to you, but if it's always I cannot stand when people tell me this, because it used to be my biggest excuse. Like, Trent, that's easier said than done. You know, I made a podcast about moving on. Somebody said, Trent, moving on is easier said than done. I said, absolutely. But you know what else? You know what else? When you cook food, it's easier said than done, but you do it because you're hungry. You go to a job every single day, it's easier said than done, but you do it because you know what happens if you don't show up. And I was like, yeah, moving on is hard. You know, changing your life is hard, but you know what's harder? Staying the same. You know what's harder? Doing nothing with your life and living your whole entire life in pain and struggle. That's harder. And so you have to future think. So when I go through these failures and these setbacks, I think about the 90-year-old Trent. As weird as this sounds, I think about the 90-year-old Trent and what the 90-year-old Trent would tell me. What the 90-year-old Trent would tell me, if you want to meet me in this Trent, like I constructed, it's peaceful, it's relaxed, it's somewhere in nature, somewhere disconnected from the world, because if you know me, I love that. And that Trent is telling me, in order to meet him, these are the things that I have to do. And so I had to turn my prison perspective to a power perspective. What's a power perspective? The power perspective says, you know what, it is easier said than done, but forget that. No matter how hard it may be, no matter how impossible it may seem, no matter how many people doubt me, no matter if I doubt myself, I still have to get it done, because such and such, whatever that such and such, whatever that blank, fill in the blank, depends on me. Fill in the blanks, right? You have a lot of whys and reasons. Depends on me showing up every single day. There's days when I want to show up. There's days where I feel like, you know, personal development industry at times is unfair and all these different things, but I can sit there and sit back and be like, oh, woe is me, or I can do something. So I focus on what I can control and I pray about what I can't. Because if you're sitting here focused on the things that you can't control, then guess what? Your life will be out of control. You'll feel paralyzed because you're trying to change something that's impossible to change. And so I changed that BC mindset to the AC mindset, which is accept and change. I accept the situation, whatever it is. I ask myself, how is this going to build me for the future? So with this COVID-19 mess, I promised myself that when I got out of this coronavirus stuff and the world changed, whatever, that I was going to thank COVID-19 for birthing something in me that would have never happened if this thing didn't happen. Like, I made sure I'm not going through the struggle for no reason. Forget that. I'm not going through pain for no reason. I'm going to get something out of it. Like, with my story, my pain, the things that I went through, you know, pain had become my best friend because my past pain became future strength for other people. So again, what am I going to get with this? How is this working for me? Right? What is this doing for my life? What is this going to create? What is this struggle going to build? Because we always want perfection, but perfection doesn't build anything. You don't learn from perfection. You don't grow from perfection. Imperfection, right? Life is about progression, not perfection. So I want to learn from my mistakes. I want to learn from my setbacks, and I want to allow this to grow me. And so I'll be like failure is my mentor, honestly. Like, failure has taught me things that success could have never taught me.
Oh, I love that. I'm trying to type as fast as you're talking. Love it. Okay. Another question that I had was just like all the yeses. Everyone's like, yes, fire in the chat. You guys, if you have questions too, drop them there because we'll open it up in a little bit. Okay, so another topic I wanted to talk about was comparison. So we, as coaches, there's tons in the network. I get this question all the time of, how do you drown out the noise? How do you stay in your lane? How do you, fight that angry monster of comparison in your business and what you're doing? And I guess kind of just like stay the path, and ignore those distractions. What are some of the things that you do to kind of remind yourself of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Comparison is the thief to joy. Comparison is the thief to peace. And it's something I have to remind myself. And we all struggle with this. Like, if you're on social media, even if you don't know it consciously, you're subconsciously comparing yourself. You are. And if you're not aware, right, self-aware of that, and then you'll start to feel less just by looking on the app. You'll start to feel like, oh man, like I wish I had that lifestyle. Oh, they're doing this much. Oh, I don't have this much in my life. And you start to feel like you're less. And what you're probably comparing your life to, this is not everybody, but more than likely, especially with social media, you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone's filtered perfect life, right? They're showing you the highlights. They're showing you the good times. Nobody's posting their failures online. Nobody is. You know, so you're comparing your failures with someone else's success. So you have to remind yourself, for one, this is your journey. And I can guarantee you this, if you run someone else's race, you're going to be tired, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to get to a place where you don't even know who you are because you trading your identity for popularity. You trading your identity because somebody else told you that you weren't enough and you thought you had to change who you are to be what the world wanted you to be. No, don't change who you are. Make the world respect you. Make the world accept you. As I always say, make the world respect your greatness. And some people might not get it, but your uniqueness, again, is your greatest gift. That's what's going to separate you. If I was like every other speaker, I wouldn't be who I am today. And so I understood in my industry what my industry needed and what I had to bring out that was pure from my life. And it was just the straight up realness, straight up talk, no fluff, no BS to this space because it needed it. And also the transparency, because I feel like so many people sell people dreams. And that's so unrelatable. When you're real, even the word relatable, I think if I'm spelling it right, and I know it has definitely these words, but even the word relatable has real. When you're relatable, you make yourself a connection. Somebody can feel you. So when people say, Trent, it feels like you know my life. I don't know your life. We never had a conversation, but I know struggle. And I'm not afraid to talk about when I go through things. I'm not afraid to talk about when I'm battling with depression. I'm not afraid to talk about my failures. I'm not afraid to talk about it because I know that's what people can relate to. I remember growing up and I would have, mentors that were supposed to be my mentors. I would have, pastors that I would go listen to, but I couldn't connect because all these people, they were selling perfection. I was like, oh, I can never be like that. I didn't have that in my life. Oh, I'm not a good person because everything was perfection, perfection, perfection. And so bring your imperfect self, right? Bring your imperfect self, your flaws, all the things you hate about yourself, bring it and own it and make those things work for you. It starts with loving yourself because when you love yourself, it becomes contagious and it builds confidence. If you want to break through in anything that you do, it's about belief. It's about making up your mind. When I talk to somebody one-on-one, I can tell if they believe. Like I had a guy come over to the house today. We're moving. And I asked him a lot of questions. And it was two guys that came by. I'm not trying to give like a marketing lesson, but it was two guys that came by. The first guy, for one, he overcharged like crazy. I'm like, bro, unless you're going to build me a whole new house to fix a house, that is way too much. You are tripping. All right. But anyways, I let him sell himself, but he seemed a little bit unsure about certain things. So I'm like, nah, because I understand the power of belief. I want you to believe in what you do so much that I have no choice but to believe in it. People know, like, I live it, breathe it, be it. I don't come with an on and off switch. It doesn't happen. Like I can't turn off rehab time. I can't, it's my life. And I believe in it so much. The second person came over and he wasn't as flashy. He wasn't as fancy. He didn't use, all these things I couldn't understand talking about the house. Like, bro, I'm not a handyman. I have no idea what you're talking about. And he simplified it, but he believed in his work. He believed in it. I can tell in his eyes. He's like, I can do this. I said, okay, I want you. I want the person that believes in it. Because if you don't believe in it, why should I believe in it? So you set the tone for your life. You set the tone for how people will treat you. You set the tone for how people believe in what you do. It's not always about selling the product, right? People buy into the person behind the product, the person behind the brand. I know I'm going from comparison to brand. I'm just trying to give you as much as you can. But when you truly believe in it, it sells itself. I promise you. So that's kind of my comparison/brand speech.
No, I love it. We talked so much about that. So I'm like, yes, hammer that home. That's perfect. I love that. Yeah, we talk a lot about that, about just if our followers, the people who engage with us, we obviously have a company that we, have products and programs for, but they're not buying those. They're buying us. They're buying what they connect with. So I love that. And just speaking to everyone being so unique and believing that. Okay, I have like 2 more questions and I'll open it up so we don't keep you here forever. I'm super grateful. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted you to share about or touch on is, can you talk a little bit more about what you share a lot about this in your podcast and things, but about protecting your peace? And can you kind of talk a little bit about that and just share kind of what that looks like for you, and how you should just kind of share about that, because I have a lot of girls who don't know what that is and don't know of your podcast and stuff yet. So
yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up because this is my favorite thing to talk about. You guys that follow me know it's every day. Like, protect your peace, protect your peace. It changed my life, those 3 words. And what it means, it's different for everybody. Like even in my life, there's different components to me protecting your peace, but protecting my peace. But I'll tell you this, for me, it means disconnecting from the world to reconnect to your soul. And so oftentimes for me, I'm out in nature. I'm a firm believer. I will sell you on this. Nature heals. Nature is natural medicine for the soul. Get out and disconnect, because some of us, we're always so connected, and connection is power, guys. I mean, if you plug something to the wall, right, it's connection. And you have a lot of inputs in your life, a lot of people pulling at you. If you're like me, a lot of things. And if you're always giving, and you're not taking care of you, there will come a point, trust me, I know, there will come a point where you're drained, where you're empty, that you have no more you to give. And so sometimes we think self-care is selfish. Self-care is not selfish, it's necessary. Because if you can't be the greatest version for yourself or the ones that need you to be, it's doing a disservice to them. And so my family knows early in the morning, that is my time. Okay, unless there's something that really needs to be done, because I want to show up a better person to the world, right? By me protecting my peace, by me getting in tune with my emotions. Like some of us, we're not even self-aware. Like we use the word know yourself, but do you really know yourself? Do you know the triggers and your emotions? Do you know what causes you to downward spiral? Do you know your habit loop? Do you know these things? And the more you get aware with yourself, the more you're able to bounce through things. And so this is something that I do. And this is a way, like with peace, and I'm not telling you to like just cut people out your life and things like that, but I will tell you this. It's impossible to experience peace if you keep people in your life that bring nothing but chaos to your life, like period, right? If your friends, your environment is everything. I like to use this analogy. You can just imagine yourself as a rose, right? I don't know if any gardeners out there. I tried and I failed miserably. I won't get into that story because I want to make myself look bad tonight. So I tried, failed miserably. But this thing I learned about gardening and flowers. You can have the most beautiful flower in the world, or the potential to be the most beautiful flower in the world. So think of yourself as that flower. It doesn't take rocket science. If we put that flower with all the potential in the world to be the most beautiful thing ever in the wrong environment, what's going to happen to that flower? That flower is going to die. It's going to wither away. If you put that flower in the right environment, that flower is going to bloom. It's going to blossom. I will say this about accepting things. You have to know when your environment isn't right for you. You have to know when your environment is draining you. It's impossible to experience peace when you're around things that bring pain and constant chaos and anxiety to your life. And so something I do in the morning, a routine, and I'm gonna be real quick with this, is my 4A process. I did a podcast over it if you want to look it up, but it's simple. In the morning, I do this as best as I can. Like, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm not gonna be the speaker. It's like, I do this every single morning. I try my best. And if I don't do it, I feel it if I don't. The first A, it's the 4 A's. The first A is I wake up with appreciation. Why? Because 150,000 people died today. Ask Siri if you don't believe me, or ask Google. And I'm appreciative of life, right? A lot of times we think blessings are all these other things, but I think a lot of us felt what blessings really are. It's the things that we probably are taking for granted and we're overlooking every single day. So, and this is scientifically proven to help your brain with oxytocin, dopamine, all these cool things that make you feel better. The second A is affection. A hug a day keeps depression away. So I go hug my daughter, I hug my wife, I try to hug my dog, my son, he's 11, so it's kind of like a sideways hug because he's in that cool stage where he doesn't want to hug daddy no more. And if you don't have that, find a way to give affection.
Okay.
When you give value, it makes you feel more valuable. The third A I would tell you is that I do is accomplishment. And so how you start your day will influence your day. I start my day off with something small. It don't have to have nothing to do with rehab time. Half the time it doesn't. It could be washing the dishes. It could be, picking up the dog poop outside. It could be whatever. Just something that lets me know I checked something off the box. I did something to start my day. A lot of times we start our days by grabbing the phone and we're in response mode already. We pick up the phone and it can be something we don't want to see. It can be comparison that immediately makes us feel like we're not doing nothing. And we get into this downward spiral of not feeling like enough. The last A is activity. Movement influences mood. And this is what I mean by protecting your peace. There's no way that you can be depressed if you're in an environment of gratitude and appreciation. So if you're not feeling like something, like the way you want to feel, go move. All right, move your body. Movement influences mood. And like, that's my process with protecting my peace. So for you, it might be meditation, it might be yoga. Just it's a time of the day that's for you, and you're disconnected from the world. And I feel like it really helps with mental health and everything else.
Love it. That touched on like a couple other things as an SB, so that's perfect. I love that 4A routine. And I think a lot of us, you know, we've really started to create or realize, you know, a lot of us are moms, a lot of us are busy working women. And so, you know, our days get started and they get started fast. So a lot of us have really begun to cultivate a morning routine of having that quiet time of just kind of, you know, settling ourselves and finding gratitude and, you know, affirmations and things like that. So I think that fits so perfect in that appreciation, affection, accomplishment, and activity. I think that's fits so perfectly with what we do. Okay, so we'll kind of round it out, and then I'd love to let you talk about, you know, your book or share anything that you want to share with them about anything coming with that. So I guess if you'll leave us with that, but before you do, will you just give any like just last thoughts, any last piece of advice to these coaches? You know, they show up every day to fight through limiting beliefs and to show up in the midst of, you know, craziness, lack of time, lack of, you know, energy to show up for these dreams that they have for their families and for the people that they serve. You know, any last words of wisdom or advice or encouragement for them before you share a little bit about your book with us?
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do right now, like anybody comment below maybe something you're struggling with. I'm looking at the chat roll, and just maybe it's something that someone is struggling with, and I'm just gonna go off of that. So especially if I see a few of those. So toxic job, not enough, drama, family problems. Okay, cool. So this is what I would tell everybody here. I think it relates to everybody. And I know you know this, but I need you to get this. You have one freaking life, man. Like, you got one. That's it. One life. And you have a choice. Either you can make the world respect your greatness, or you can let all those things, drama, negativity, problems, toxic job, silence your voice, right? You can do that. And I want to challenge everybody on this call to make a commitment to themselves. When I say commitment, guys, I'm not talking about a promise, because promises are weak to me. Promises are with words. I promise I'm going to do this. I promise I'm going to do that. I'm talking about a real commitment, a commitment that says I'm going to stay loyal to what I said I was going to do, even when the mood has left me. Like, I'm going to still stay loyal. Even when I don't feel like it, I'm going to still show up, because that's what life is about. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. That's when you know you got that real reason. I want you guys to stay disciplined that's listening to this. And what I mean by discipline is good at saying no to the things that don't get you your yes. I hate to say this, but it's true. And I might step on some toes, and people might log off, but it's all good. I love you anyway. Please stop complaining about the things that you aren't willing to change. Please. If you're allowing it over and over and over again, it's not the situation's fault, right? And I'm not saying you just to go quit your job and you hit me up like, Trent, I need a job. You told me to quit. I'm not saying you just go quit your job, but you should be having an exit plan if your job is toxic. Like, I should be able to come around you, and I should be able to talk to you and be like, okay, what are you doing to get out of this situation? And I get it. It's hard. I know that's the first thing that comes to our mind. It's hard, but it's harder to stay in stuff that's not helping your life. So you got to choose your hard. Which hard are you going to choose? Life is hard. Progression is hard. Moving forward is hard. I would rather choose the hard that I know will lead to something better than stay in a place that I know is not going to change. So get good at saying no to the things. If it's not moving you forward, let it go. And I get it. It's sometimes like, oh, I don't want to leave people behind. You're not leaving people behind if this is your case. There's people who are choosing to stay behind. I refuse to put my life on pause so people can catch up. I'm going to give everything I can to help people, but I refuse to lose myself in the process of helping other people that don't want to be helped, because everybody don't want to be saved, and you can't save people that don't want to be saved. Hello. Okay. Number 3 is you got to be consistent. And what I mean by consistency, a lot of you know where I'm going with this. Consistency means every single day as best as you can. And when we talk about giving our best every single day, I'm not talking about it's perfection, because sometimes our best is like, it sucks to be, for better lack of words, but at least we showed up. And some of you might be listening to this right now and saying, Trent, I can't be consistent at nothing. I have a consistency problem. Please stop telling yourself that lie. You don't have a consistency problem. You don't, I promise you. We can debunk this right now. You've been consistent at a lot of things, I'm sure. You've been consistent at going to the person that said a toxic job. You've been consistent at going to that toxic job every single day. That's consistency. For some of us in family drama, and I get it, it's not as easy just to move on from that, understand it, but you've been consistent at accepting that every single day. For some of us that have went to school, right, and we didn't even like school, but we still went for whatever reason, right, you've been consistent at that, or you was consistent at that for every single day. So this is my question to you right now, and you got to be real with yourself. I don't want, don't respond to me with it, because you got to deal with you, you know what I'm saying, every single night, every single day, when you look in the mirror. If you can be consistent to the things that you hate, then why can't you be consistent to the things that you say you love? If you can be consistent to the things that don't help your life, that really drive your life into deeper pain and stress, why can't you be consistent for the things that you say you really care about? So it's either one or two things. One, you don't really care about it. And if you don't really care about it, it will get exposed. Okay? That's just facts. There's some things in my life I said I cared about, but it got exposed, and I really realized I really didn't care about it. The second thing is, the reason why you're consistent of things that you don't that you don't like, that you don't want to do, it's because you understand the repercussions of not showing up immediately. You understand, if I don't go to that toxic job, I'm not gonna get a paycheck. If I don't get a paycheck, my family's not gonna eat. You understand that vividly. You understand it vividly. So you gotta understand it vividly when it comes to you not showing up for your dream, you not showing up for your life. Because there's people that you don't even know. Listen to me, please. There's people that you don't even know that's dependent on you to show up for your life. Okay? Understand that. Fourth is faith. I'm going to tell you to have faith. Faith is believing the odds are beatable even when the odds say it's impossible. Faith is knowing that the only impossibilities that exist are the ones you create. Go show yourself it's possible. If you're in a prison mindset, go prove yourself wrong. If you say you can't do it, go show yourself that you can do it. When you build up the muscle of possibility, your life changes forever. And last but not least is heart. Right? You can have all the tactics, all the strategies in the world. None of those things might work. You might just have a day or a season that is just tough. And you got to show up with heart. Muhammad Ali says it best. He says, suffer now and spend the rest of your life as a champion. And when it comes to heart, I think about this. I think about life as a marathon. I think about your business, your everything as a marathon. And most people, when hurdles show up, they quit. They throw in the towel. They give up, right? Then they get mad at everybody else and blame everybody else. But when you're serious about it, you don't even bring a towel to throw in. When you're really serious about it. And you have to ask yourself this question as I leave. And be real with yourself. Please be honest with yourself. For the things that you say that you want in life, and sometimes the things that we want aren't the things that we need. And I think the journey will expose that and you'll realize that. But for the things that you say you want in life, you have to ask yourself this question. Am I willing to become that person it takes to receive those things? Because a lot of times we want the perks, but we don't want to pay the price. We want the stage, but we don't want to pay the sacrifices. So are you willing to go through it to get to it? It all starts with you.
And mic drop. Seriously, so powerful. Wow. I literally have like no words. All the amen, because that is just so good. Just so good. I just wrote down literally 15 sticky notes as fast as I could while you were saying all that. So I know they're all like sticky notes. Oh my gosh, so powerful. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you're here, because so much of what you share about self-love and about just, working through the things that God and life has given you and realizing how to use them for you instead of against you, and, tackling that victim mentality is just so powerful, and it's so impactful and so relevant to what we do every single day, fighting through all those limiting beliefs and fears and things that can hold us back to really find our greatness and find how to use this platform that we've been given for so much good. So I am beyond honored and emotional and so grateful that you have been here to share your heart with us. Seriously, so incredible. Do you want to talk about your book at all? Do you want to share anything about it? I have it. I'm starting it tomorrow, so I'm really excited. But please, have at it. Share anything you want to about it.
Awesome. Before I forget, I want to say thank you, Ashley, for you being a leader and showing up and then reaching out to me. It takes, I want to say courage, because I'm probably one of the simplest people to talk to, but you reached out and, and even you giving support, and I saw that. And that's the thing that I would say too, like a lot of us, we ask for support, but do you give support? Give what you wish to receive. I think it's one of the best, common laws of life when it comes to receiving things back to your life. Yeah, with the books, the book, The Greatest You, that's, a lot of people know about that book. It's out. It's been out for a year. I love it. It's a great read. Dives into my story a bit, and it actually goes through my rehab process, which is reality, release, repair. When you read the book, you'll kind of feel that. I have a new book coming out, and this book is catered to youth. So if you have kids, it's called Straight Up. So it's going to be straight up about a lot of things, 52 topics I'm talking about, but it's also for adults. Like, I wrote this knowing it's for kids, but I know adults need it too. So you can go to straightupbook.com or on Amazon if you want to pre-order it. It was supposed to be out, but with this whole COVID-19 situation, it got pushed to August 4th. And for you guys that don't listen to the podcast, Straight Up podcast, listen to it, tune in, because I give so much. I just give my all to it. And I think it might can help you or somebody that you know.
Absolutely. It's been a really big blessing in a lot of our team's life. They love you. So thank you so much. Does anyone have any quick questions? I don't think I saw anything in the chat, but I think just all the yeses.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a few.
Yeah, I'll take a few.
Yeah. Okay, go for it. So the first one, can you see them? Let's see. The first one I just saw was, any advice on how you walk alongside someone who has recently lost a friend to suicide? So that's the first one.
Yeah, so that's so hard. One, you have to understand just the emotions that they're going through. I know the emotions of guilt will come up, thinking that I wish I would have did more. And so I feel like, as the friend, your job isn't to necessarily heal them. Your job is to be there for them. Your job is just to listen. Sometimes it's not even to say anything. It's just to know that I have support. When I lost people in my life, whether it's my grandparents or my friends or my best friend committed suicide, it wasn't always about what I needed to hear. It's about just knowing that people were there for me and I had that support. And one thing that I would tell you to tell her that really helped my life, and I mean, I'm walking in it now, is to find something. Anybody who lost a person in your life, I feel like this is the best thing that you could do, is to find something about that loss that will be a gain for this world. And what I mean by that is, what's something that they stood for or represented, that you can embody and you can give to the world. Don't let their death be in vain. So obviously, Ant, which is my friend, he's more alive in my life than he's ever been, because he's the reason why millions of people, whether it was 10 people, 20 people, are being helped by rehab time. And so you see people that maybe lost someone to, cancer, and they fight for that. And so I would just say, keep them alive through your mission. My grandmother, I lost my grandma and my grandpa. My grandmother, she always told me, and this is the reason why I don't speak much. I know it seems crazy because I spoke a lot today, but she always say, Trent, make sure your words count. Don't just talk to talk. Make sure you're a listener, because listeners are very important. Listeners are more important than talkers. And so I always keep her alive through my listening. And when I speak, I make sure it counts. So just those little things I feel like can keep the spirit alive in you in this world of people that you lost.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. The next question I saw was one of our coaches who struggles with chronic illness, spending years, just kind of bedbound. And actually, I feel this very strongly. My mom is very much, suffers from Lyme disease. So I understand this question. But she said, when life is just so hard, how can she, trying to choose her own perspective and trying to be positive, but how do you even do that on just the most horrible of days, or do you just find space to feel it, and be mad and cry and be upset and not try to push through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've never really dealt with something super chronic. I mean, I had asthma really bad, almost died growing up, which really hindered me really, really bad growing up. But when I think about, my mom's battling cancer, y'all know my story. And I think about my mother, I think about one of my friends, he's paralyzed. He wasn't paralyzed when I knew him, got in a motorcycle accident. And I sit back and I think about, what has really helped them. For one, I'm definitely going to tell you to feel all your emotions, okay? Emotions don't mean that you have to become those emotions. You're a human being, and know it's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to go through things. It's just not okay to stay that way. And so I would develop some type of process. I have it because I battle a lot, especially in the last few weeks, I battled, just to be transparent, I battled a little bit of depression. And people are like, how is that possible when you have, the perception of what people think? And so I had to understand what I needed to do to be able to fight against that. And the thing, though, that I see with people that go through disabilities, I'm going to call it that, is they turn their disability to their greatest ability, right? So they turn that thing that was supposed to work against them, and they turn that thing to the thing that really works for them and really helps their life. And so my friend that's in the wheelchair, he could, he's paralyzed, and he could be like, man, I promise you, he's became a better father, a better person. He ran he walked the 5K, and actually his friend did it with him in wheelchair, the 5K, and he never did it before. And I told him, I said, bro, that was more inspiring to me than anybody else that could have done anything. So he's owning it and said, how can I use this to inspire other people through my journey? I had one of my close friends that was battling sickle cell, and I kid you not, she was more positive. It wasn't a fake positive than anything else. She said, I'm going to get the most out of my life, and I'm going to make awareness, because when you realize that you can make a change through whatever it is that you're going through, your greatest disappointment could be your greatest rescue. I really feel like that. So I would say to own it, not in the way of saying like, this is my identity, but own it to say, you know what, I'm going to turn this pain into power, not just for myself, but for other people. Because when you bring value to other people, it makes you feel valuable.
Absolutely. That's such a great way of looking at that. I know we have a lot of girls that can really relate to that right now, that are going through some hard stuff. So thank you for that. Okay, I'll give you two more. So the first one is, if they are new to your podcast, which one would you suggest starting with at the beginning? Or is there one that you're like, oh no, this one's like the bomb?
Yeah, so it depends on the person, but what you need. But I would say this. Yes, if you want to know my story, start at the beginning, the first one. But my favorite episode is number 10, Die With Your Dreams. That's just my favorite. I have a lot of favorites, but that one is the one that I feel like I've seen other ones that people share more. I don't think that's everybody's favorite episode, but it's mine. So I would say start there if you want a fire lit under your butt about like your goals and your life and everything like that.
Okay, I love that. Awesome. Okay, Bo, I think that answered your question. Okay, and the last one that we'll take so we can round this out right at 9:30 is what to do when you have no idea what the future is going to look like, but you need to make some sort of plan. Some of our college graduates and stuff, like, how do you tackle that? How does that work?
Yeah, so I don't know if I have a framework or a strategy. I'll just say this: none of us know what the future is going to bring. True. Nobody knows. I mean, we can definitely prepare. I'm not saying to be unprepared, but you just never know what life is going to bring. And so I'm a firm believer. I said it earlier, and focus on what you can control. So I will ask myself, it's like, okay, what can I control in my present? And oftentimes it's about the little things. So for me, when I started rehab time, I didn't know nothing. Like I wasn't even reading books. I didn't have no mentors. I didn't have calls like this. All I knew was mind, body, and soul. And so my first thing was physical fitness. And so I said, I can control this. I'm going to better myself here. And I felt like it's kind of like a video game. I feel like every time I focused on bettering something, it would unlock something else. Mm-hmm. And I believe the journey will always reveal what you need. So it's not always about like how to, it's about the why you're doing it and the focus on that. And I feel like it's just life. Life will bring you what you need once you take that first step. But the journey is not possible without that first step. Some people wait till it's perfect to start. Some people wait till the right time. The right time that exists is right now for you. And just say, okay, what can I do to take a step to better me? And I feel like down the line, the right connections and situations happen, in your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trent. We are just so grateful. This was amazing. I have a wealth of notes, and I know all of them are like, we need to go work out now. We're just so fired up. So we're so grateful. Thank you for taking your time just to chat with me and for answering my message on Instagram. I'm really grateful. This was incredible.
No problem, Ashley. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all. I was like scrolling through, looking at everybody.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you all for tuning in, staying locked in, and just keep making the world respect your greatness and keep being the great leader that you are, Ashley. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a good night. Girls,
take care.
See you tomorrow. Good night, y'all.